commend you for, being the face of the American dream here. And I thank you for continuing the fight. And you connect New York with the larger world. You import products, wines from over 16 countries and have, created that international flavor in our liquor stores and our restaurants here in New York City and elsewhere. And also, you took on a fight. You took on a lot of fight when a lot of people in your situation sat on the sidelines. And you were willing to put your name out there, your business, your reputation out there, and fight for what's right, all the way to the Supreme Court. And now we're winning. And this wine industry is so important. I saw you have New York State wines back there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely New York State wines.
Wines.
And when you think about the wine industry, and we have incredible vineyards from Western New York to the Finger Lakes region, Long Island, the North Country, even outside the tariffs, which we'll have Victor talk about, it has had this relationship that the president has now broken with Canada. We used to have, the Canadians used to spend about $34 million nationally on American wines. And that dwindled because now there's this sense of we're under attack. We're boycotting American products, whether it's our wine or it's bourbon from Kentucky. Ask my friend Andy Bashir. They're not selling our liquor on their shelves because of, separate from tariffs, just the assault on their integrity and their ability to be an independent country. So the ripple effect of that went from $34 million or so just a couple years ago in Canadian sales down to a paltry $1 million. This is the ripple effect that is not being covered about what this has meant. And as a state which has a 430-mile border with Canada, we're feeling it everywhere. In the tourism, people are not coming to the Finger Lakes. They're not experiencing new wines and then to buy them at their store. So it is beyond what anyone could have calculated. But in that sense, you're not just standing up for the wine industry, Victor. You're standing up for New York and America itself by taking on the powers to be in Washington. And since I've been governor, I've enjoyed fighting alongside people like Victor. People who show the courage to step out of their comfort zone sometimes and to just call out an injustice and fight for themselves and fight for others. So they're fighting for all of us. And reckless and illegal tariffs have had real consequences. I was supposed to be with farmers on Tuesday, but the weather delayed us because we had to see what was happening with the storm. But I was expected to be up in Elba, New York. Where's Elba, New York? Well, it's the onion capital of the state. For those who are keeping track, I've been there in the Onion Parade. It is outside of Batavia, about 15 minutes. It's a place where I plan to talk to farmers, and I'll get back there, about the effects of tariffs on their lives and how the farm equipment has gone up. I mean, the fertilizer, you could only buy elements for the particular fertilizer they use in Canada and Ukraine. Not great options for our farmers. So we're living this in real time, from the streets of New York City all the way up to our most rural parts of our great state. So we have a Supreme Court 6-3 decision just a few days ago. It came down. Coincidentally, I happened to be sitting just a few feet from the president when he got that decision. The National Governors Meeting was underway Friday morning. Dramatic shift in his attitude immediately, I'll just say that. And he actually said, after taking a couple questions, one of which, and I'll repeat it here because I really like this answer he gave, he was asked, what is the lesson of Minneapolis? Mr. President, what are the lessons you're taking away? And the first thing he says was, we're not going to go places where we're not welcome. We want to go where people want us there. And he looked over at me and says, for example, I'll wait and see whether Kathy asks me to come to New York, and I'll wait for that. So that was a good comment. Almost immediately after that, he says, I'm shutting down questions because I'm just seething right now, and he left the room. So then he had his press conference. But where we are right now, the Supreme Court has said these tariffs are flat out illegal. It was done in violation of law, which requires the approval of Congress. As a former member of Congress, I've seen the authority of Congress being trampled on day and night. They're not standing up for themselves, but that's a different issue. And so we've said this: New Yorkers have paid more than they should have under an illegal scheme that the Supreme Court has struck down. So I am demanding, with a letter going to Secretary of Treasury Bessent today, demanding the full refund for New Yorkers, for individual families, to the tune of $13.5 billion. We believe we are owed this. this is separate from individual businesses, I think you have the right then to file for a refund of what you paid under this illegal scheme. And that is not just us saying it. That is what the government's lawyers said in court when they said, don't worry, if the Supreme Court strikes this down, we will give people refunds. I read that, the arguments of the Department of Justice's lawyers just last night. So they have said they'll do refunds. I want refunds for New Yorkers because New York families have paid on average $1,750 more in everything, from groceries at the store to their Christmas presents to now to their wine. So separate from the efforts of businesses to go after their own system that the federal government should be setting up right now, I believe that the state of New York residents are also owed money as well. So $13.5 billion is what we're seeking. So, you know what? We do want to enter a golden age. It's just not the way the one that President Trump has described. And so we're going to continue fighting for our businesses, our families, our entrepreneurs. People love this state and love this country and just want a fair shot. You'll hear from Victor. They already pay a lot in federal and state taxes. And now to have this extra tariff thrown on them and their customers is just a kick in the teeth. And they don't deserve that. And I thank him and commend him for standing up and fighting and doing something that is now going to benefit everyone in America. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Governor. Well, it's hard to beat what you just said, but this was really my name, Victor Owen Schwartz. I'm the founder of VOS Selections. I thought you were tired of hearing that, so I didn't think I had to repeat that. It was really a big win on Friday at the Supreme Court. And I have to say, for a small business in New York to be able to bring a case like this, just to be heard, and then to get to the Supreme Court, and then to win, it just says so much about American justice. But in terms of our industry, you know, New York is the greatest wine capital in the world.
Yes.
You can find products here from, yes, it's a great place to do business. That's why I have my business here in New York. That's why you're in my office right here on 38th Street. So to have something like the tariffs just kind of overthrow the playing field and mess things up, it was unnecessary. If you're a government, an administration that is trying to help businesses, why shoot us in the foot? Why come at us? We're already paying plenty of taxes. We pay at the port to the feds. We pay the state taxes. They make a lot of money from us, I promise you. So we don't want to mess up what's already there. But the tariffs have really impacted us and have really been very painful. I've seen a lot of my colleagues, both in retails and restaurants and other importers and distributors in the state, have taken a big hit. So I can talk on and on about the tariffs, but I want to thank you all for covering this really important story, because I think it does have very big implications for everything in this country.
Thank you.
The fight has only begun.
Any questions on topic while we have Victor here?
Well, I have a sort of on-topic question, Governor. There was a poll out today that said that 33% of New Yorkers say that within 5 years they were going to leave New York because of the cost of living. Tariffs add to the cost of living. And I wonder if you can talk about how this drives people out, but also what you want to do in terms of making the state more affordable so that people won't move out and won't lose congressional seats.
No, I agree. Multifaceted answer here. If you look back to my very first State of the State address I'd been governor for maybe 5 months, I talked about affordability back then. I knew before it became the buzzword of 24, 26 that this was a real problem for New Yorkers. They're just coming out of the costs and the stress of the pandemic and, you know, the businesses who lost so much during the time of shutdown. And so we've been in a situation where prices were being affected by that, but also inflation came along at the same time, drove up costs everywhere. So I have been very attuned to the struggles of New York families and businesses for my entire duration as governor. What we've done about it, you saw our effort last year to put more money back in people's pockets and focusing on the fact that this year, any parent with a child under the age of 4 will receive an additional $1,000. We have the baby bonus, $1,800. We have $500 going to people with older children. The inflation rebate, putting upwards of $400 in people's pockets. The largest middle-class tax rate cut in 70 years, plus money that we gave back in a middle-class tax cut just a couple of years ago as well. So I'm focused on it. Free lunches and breakfast. We'll be doing an event on this. We've saved millions of dollars for New York families by offering free breakfasts and lunches. So those are areas over here. And I'm working hard to keep this business climate strong. You just heard from someone who's been in business since the 80s.
40 years.
40 years. You know, that New York is a great place to do business. I mean, that's why companies like Micron could go anywhere in the whole country. And they were heading to Texas at one point. They're coming to New York because we're creating that environment. But we need to have the ripple effect down to New Yorkers, right? I'll keep driving business. I need to expand the pie so I can get more people working here and create a larger tax base by bringing in more businesses. That is my goal here. But in the meantime, I'm taking on people's biggest stressors. You have a family, childcare. What is my largest investment this year outside our traditional health care and Medicaid costs? It is on child care. So working with the mayor and communities all across the state, we're going to help take that burden off of families. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to get there. So that's a huge way we can help families. Free community college for someone who wants to go to a new career. That's important to us. That's a big gift to families as well. Another big price stressor off of them. Building more housing. What I'm trying so hard to do is to break down the onerous regulations that here in New York City, if you put up an affordable housing building, per unit, it's an additional $82,000 cost for that building, plus 2 years of delay. That's not sustainable. That's why rents are so high, because there was a failure of ambition to build more housing. So we're going after the biggies. You know, education. We're going after childcare. We're going after housing costs, as well as utility costs. And we have a whole package we've unveiled on how to deal with that this year as well. So I will do my damnedest to make this state more affordable. And all I need is Washington to get out of our way. Get out of my way. Because I have 7 Republican members of Congress who should be saying, Mr. President, you should not be cutting health care for New Yorkers in my own districts. Mr. President, leave offshore wind and the Gateway Tunnel alone, because those are thousands of good-paying jobs that you are trying to destroy. These are areas where I need help from our congressional delegation, and they need to stand up, or else there's consequences. Big election coming up. So that's...
Are you going to be able to stop the out-migration?
Everything I'm talking about is to let New Yorkers know that I'm doing everything in my power to stop that, because I want people to have the life that they dreamed of. And I would say a major reason, and I looked at the 5 areas where people go to other states to live if they're leaving New York. Florida and Texas, I can't control the weather, and they have different taxes. But the other three states are our neighbors: Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I don't think they're going because the weather's better. The tax structures are very similar. Maybe they like the governors better, I don't know. It's basically because they built more housing. They had the ambition, just look across the river, more housing going up in New Jersey that we can only dream about here. I'm trying to jumpstart that with the mayor and say we're changing state laws. We're giving more, we're doing everything we can to build more housing. And we do that and take care of child care, all of a sudden the stressors start coming down. Even car insurance. Why are New Yorkers paying $4,000 on average for car insurance, $1,500 more than they are in other states? I'm going after that as well. So the cumulative effect, if this is all successful, and I need the legislature on board, We get this done, we can start showing proof points that life is going to be less expensive here in New York. But I take that challenge very seriously. All right, I think we're still on topic.
I have a legitimate on-topic.
I'd like to hear it.
So, as you know, you're facing a challenge from Bruce Blakeman, and he's called tariffs a minor affordability issue. I'm curious.
For whom? Not me.
He said, at least compared to your policies, he feels like it's a minor affordability issue. I'm wondering if you could provide some insight into how messaging on tariffs is going to play into your re-election campaign. In addition, you mentioned the comments from the president. I'm wondering what that says about your relationship with the president. To me, it sounds like it shows you guys are getting along well, but what did you make of him specifically citing you in those comments you referenced earlier.
I was delighted to hear it, because I had just told everybody, from Stephen Miller and other people in administration, like, don't come to New York. I mean, they know I'm not afraid to stand up to them. The fact that I have wins and can be persuasive on restoring money that belongs to us or not coming here. I'm on the front line of a lot of big fights, and they know I'm not afraid I will not back down on something like the excessive abuse of ICE and what they're doing in our communities. Yes, I will help you. Go after the criminals. I've said that from day one. I don't want them here. And people who have committed crimes and served times in jail, send them back home. 1,400 we've already sent thus far. So I will say this. Let's get back to the tariffs. I'm not viewing this through a political lens. I take on this fight because it is an affordability issue, and that is what I've been focused on for years. And so, people can play politics with this, and those who diminished what $1,750 means to a family, well, then you're doing pretty damn good. Maybe you're just doing just fine, and you really don't have a sensitivity to the struggles that people are going through. That's a big deal. When we gave out our inflation rebate of $400 last year, people came up to me on the streets and hugged me and cried and said what a difference that made. So that just shows a tone-deaf attitude toward the real struggles of New Yorkers, to think that that's just dismissed. And what it's doing to our businesses, like Victor's. Like, don't we want Victor to be successful? You want to try and drive Victor underground? We'd be happy when all the small businesses shut down? Come on.
Yes, I definitely want to address this. To say that it's just a side issue is absurd. Since Friday, we've received literally thousands of emails across the political spectrum, across the country, about how impacted they are. This has been an existential question for small business in America. To say it's a side note, it's just an insult to all the people who work here and work across the country, because they know how much they've been impacted. In terms of inflation, anybody that studies economics knows that there's a lag period. So the impact of tariffs hasn't really hit yet to the degree that it will. It's only a little bit. Just read what the economists say. Prices are going up because of tariffs. And we're still fighting an existential question because we have to pay those tariffs up front. Think about that. Up front. You don't pay any tax like that. But tariffs you do. I have to say, it is like the mafia coming to you and saying, before you open that front door, you have to pay us whatever, 15%, 20%, maybe 200%. Depends what the administration happens to feel that morning. So it's very impactful.
Any more on time?
Any other on topics? Yeah, in the back.
Hi, Governor.
Hi.
Fix Lab News. Will any of this money go to helping the New York City budget or just directly to New Yorkers?
What I'd like is this money to go directly to New Yorkers, and since there's 8.5 million New York City residents, I want them to get their share. I think this will help them with their affordability challenges. As I work with the mayor, laser focused on solving that as well.
Second quick question, a follow-up. The White House just finally gave hospitals around the state $2 billion.
Wait, is this on topic? On topic. What's that?
That money, is that being sent out the same way like inflation rebate checks were sent out?
No.
How would you refund that?
This money depends how they get it to us. I'm just saying the federal government can send it to everybody. Like, I don't have to be the pass-through. You have all the taxpayers in my state, write them checks, okay? I'm sure you're going to want to put Donald Trump real big all over the check. I don't care who gets credit for it. I just want that money to go back to New Yorkers because they overpaid for the last year, and it's got to stop now. And we need Congress to have some spine and start standing up to what he is doing to Americans, our businesses, and our families. So, anything else for Victor here?
Other on topics?
All right. To show you that all roads lead to Buffalo, Victor is best friends with one of my high school buddies from Hamburg High School, whose mother was my fabulous English teacher, Mrs. Durfee. So there's always a connection back there.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I so appreciate you coming today.
All right, thank you. Take care, Chloe. Thank you. Good luck with the business. All right.
Okay, we're going to time for a couple off-topic guys.
Governor, actually, I have two off-topic questions. One has to do with the ICE arrest at Columbia, where Columbia is saying that the ICE agents misrepresented themselves to get on campus. My other question has to do with the fact that the NYPD made an arrest in the Snowball incident. They arrested a 27-year-old man with a rap sheet. charging with assault on a police officer. Your reaction to that and the fact that there was an arrest made and an attack on the cop?
No, our police officers put themselves in harm's way every single day, and there is no circumstance where it's okay to throw anything at a police officer, so that is appropriate. With respect to Columbia, the details are still unfolding, but if they went into college housing, student housing, that requires a warrant. And I want to know if they had a warrant, what the conditions of that arrest were, and we're still looking for more information. But to misrepresent who they are, I've said they're out of control. And if that is the case, and I have to get all the details because this is newly unfolding. I don't want to speak outside of turn here, but if that's the case, that just goes to prove our point that this is an organization that is out of control. They need to be refocused, reorganized, retrained, start over, because it's just not working.
On the snowball thing, do you think that the arrest was warranted? Not a snowball fight, but an actual assault on a police officer?
Well, if someone was assaulted, then an arrest is appropriate, and they would have the information. Clearly, the Commissioner of Police has done the investigation. It's not for me to second guess what police investigations reveal.
But not to this one.
So the follow-up was, the White House just finally gave hospitals around the state $2 billion in overdue COVID reimbursement. Will any of that help various budget situations in that the state won't have to subsidize hospitals that much?
No, that money is, we've been fighting for that for years. That was owed us as part of COVID reimbursement. And part of it goes to the MTA to reimburse them for expenses, as well as SUNY. So that is not unrestricted money. That has two dedicated sources, the ones that were denied the funding and received. I spoke to Congressman Garbarino about this, and I want to thank him for his efforts to secure this funding. We've been asking for a long time, and so yeah, that was a good news story today.
Two questions on the budget. First one, have you had any conversations with New York City about helping to fill the $5 billion budget gap? Are you planning to send them any more money? How much?
In addition to the $1.5 billion and the 1.1 this year, 1.7 billion for childcare, we're having the conversations. I spoke to the mayor yesterday. No, this is the process where this will get settled out, and certainly there's very important conversations that he needs to have with the city council. So this does not have a time. The only time frame the mayor had was to show his preliminary plans at a certain date, February 17th. All right. The next major milestone will be June, when the negotiations hopefully are concluding with the city council. So there's a lot of time to work this out. But listen, I also represent the 8.5 million New York City residents. You know, I'm not rooting against the city ever. I want to be supportive. We have been. We're using our very experienced budget teams to work in collaboration with the mayor. So there's ways that, there's other ways to look at this, and more broadly, that's what we're encouraging, a broader look at. And so that's all. It's very fluid, but there needs to be a resolution, and there will be at the right time.
And then also budget related, you said you're committed to not raising taxes, but why should New Yorkers believe you when you changed your mind about congestion pricing after you got elected?
Because that was on pause. Pause says, truthfully, that you're going to turn it back on. That was not misleading the public.
Governor, yesterday your budget director basically indicated that you are looking to make changes to the state's climate law. Wouldn't say when, wouldn't say specifically what that might look like. When can New Yorkers and legislators expect to see a proposal from you about the CLCPA? You already had your 30-day budget amendments, and he indicated that this would be something that would be in the budget. So is this going to be another few days before the deadline, like with bail reform in 2022, or will there be more time for negotiation?
I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that affordability when it comes to energy costs is a real issue right now. And the world has changed dramatically since 2019. I wish it hadn't. I wished all the circumstances and metrics that were looked at back in 2019 had remained consistent. But a pandemic, which disrupted global supply chains, raising the cost of everything we're trying to do to build more clean energy, renewable energy. The inflation drove up costs. I mean, projects that we thought were going to come to fruition were actually shut down or pulled by developers because they weren't going to make money for wind energy. I'm working hard on this, and I really want to do everything I can to address people's real concerns, yes, about the climate, but also about the fact that people's energy costs, I mean, just talk to anybody about what their utility bill, it was in the last couple of weeks, it is staggering. And we cannot just tune out those cries for help from New Yorkers who are just getting crushed under the weight of this. So listen, I'm not going to ever, you can ask me as many times as you want between now and the end of the budget. I'm not going to telegraph what we're talking about in our negotiations, but I think everybody knows that we have a real problem on our hands. And so, and also dealing with the very hostile federal government. When I look at the fact that our offshore wind was part of the equation when we try to get to meet our goals here, and they pull the plug on it. And it's only back, and I talked to the secretaries who are involved in this in the White House a couple of days ago. They said, oh, Empire Wind went back on. So what are you complaining about? I said, it went back on because I beat you in court, I said. Okay, don't make it so difficult for me. Why do I have to go to court and win in court to do something that'll power 500,000 homes in Brooklyn this year? I'm counting on that energy. We'll also have hydroelectric power coming down because I launched the Chippy program, bringing hydroelectric power from Quebec all the way down to power New York City to help replace the nuclear energy that was shut down a few years ago. So I will say this is an enormous challenge. I'm up to the task. I'm looking at this from a all-the-above approach, and we'll be closely engaging the legislators.
And just, I know that you don't negotiate in public, but usually there's some sort of public proposal that we can look at to see what's being negotiated, but you don't have one yet. When can we expect to see that? If you're going to be proposing,
if there's going to be one, yeah.
the law.
I want people to understand what's at stake here. I think there needs to be an education process first. I mean, if New Yorkers, a family living upstate with home heating oil, with probably one car, it's an additional $3,500 a year under the plans that are currently proposed.
Where is that number from? Because your budget director cited the same number, but no one seems to know what specifically.
I can get that number for you. We have the whole metrics. If you're living in an apartment in New York City and you have a heat pump, okay, it's this much. If you're living upstate with 2 cars in Western New York and you have natural gas. So we have the whole range. I've been actually sharing this data with the legislature for 4 years, saying that this is what we're looking at. This is what we're facing. And now it's come to a real head this year because the extreme weather drove up costs, but also, the fact that I'm fighting Washington to save part of our plan to make that happen. I think everybody has to see that this is it's a variable that we could not have foreseen. I did not expect Donald Trump to cut down some of the major sources of renewable power, wind and solar, like that, just end them, and then I'm supposed to still make up for that somehow. I just need little people to understand what this challenge is. So the legislator and the leadership and I will be working through this.
Great, thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm in
Thanks.
Florida later today.
I want to say hi to some friends.
Fundraising?
Gotta get the coppers. So yeah, I'll be back Saturday morning. I'll be back. Short trip. Actually, seasonal adjustment depression. Give me a break. I'd like to take y'all with me because it's affecting your attitude. You gotta get some sunshine. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you. This is great. Thank you. Your voice is really important. Thanks so much.